I have received this afternoon a message from the Japanese government in reply to the message forwarded to that government by the Secretary of State on August 11th. I deem this reply a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan. In the reply, there is no qualification.
And that made the big news official. Big, the biggest. 3 years and 8 months and 7 days after Pearl Harbor, the guns ceased firing and the killing ended. World War II was over. This was it. VJ Day. Peace. It's wonderful. The United States at this moment stands at the summit of the world. That's what Winston Churchill was saying as the post-war era opened. But to most Americans, it didn't seem that things had changed very much. This was the atomic age we were living in now, and the papers were telling us that life would never be quite the same again. But Hiroshima seemed a long way off from Main Street, and 1,000 hometowns from Batavia, New York to Amity, Oregon would look pretty much the same as they always did when the GIs, the lucky ones, got back home. Peace. It was wonderful. The future looked good, and a Washington official made it sound even better. The American people, he said, are in the pleasant predicament of having to learn to live 50% better than they ever lived before. For a while, the housewife's eternal hassle with the rationing system went right on, and the girls spent half their time wrestling with ration points. Red ones for meat and butter, blue ones for canned goods. And then maybe the store wouldn't have the stuff even when you had the points. Americans never did get used to those shortage signs at the corner grocery. But if we could beat Hitler and Tojo, we could lick the post-war supply problem too. Pretty soon the ration books surrendered unconditionally, and the great American horn of plenty began to flow again. Fussing and feuding with the butcher became a thing of the past, and it was like old times. Of course, one thing never was the same again: the price tag. And when that grand old saying, fill her up, was heard in the land, and the A cars were tossed to the winds, well, then we knew the war was really over. Magic carpet run, they called it, when the ships came sailing home with their cargoes of Kilroys. Home from the Hurtgen Forest and Bastogne, from Rendova and the Solomons and Iwo Jima, from 100 other places we'd never even heard of before the shooting started. Kilroy was there all right, and he'd left his signature around the world. And now, brother, was he glad to be here. The song we were singing then said it all. It's been a long, long time. G.I. Joe met more than the enemy overseas. In England and France and Italy and Iceland, he also met the girls. So the war brides came pouring in, and a young army of ready-made replacements came with them. Welcome to the States, kids. That tall, dark stranger is nobody else but Daddy. The statue says, I lift my lamp beside the golden door, and the golden door swung wide to take them in. 100,000 DPs, displaced persons. The refugees from the tyranny and terror with the marks of Belsen and Dachau and Buchenwald still upon them. The indelible tattoo that meant concentration camp. But now, we survived, we're free, and we're together. It was a little like graduation day and a lot like getting a reprieve from the governor, but sooner or later the Army did let you go. 11 million Americans went through the separation mill. They all came out breathing the sweetest words of tongue or pen. I've got that piece of paper and that ruptured duck. I'm a civilian again. But thousands of veterans who spent the duration holed up in a Quonset hut had to begin their own housekeeping in, guess what? Quonset huts. The atomic age was short of parlor, bedroom, and bath. The housing shortage was a civilian version of the old Army snafu. Situation normal, all fouled up. Something new and different was added to life with Father. He was going to college in droves under the GI Bill of Rights and raising a family at the same time. Old Siwash was never like this. But for millions of former fighting men, the future looked inviting. As for the past, well, it was fading and dimming, but nobody would ever forget it. The wild blue yonder, the flak on the Schweinfurt raid, the ME-109s over Cologne, and the long, long haul over the hump. Remember? They were only junk now, war surplus. The planes that got us there and brought most of us back. It was a time for reconversion, gearing the great arsenal of democracy back to peace. The planes and tanks and guns became consumer goods and automobiles, and that post-war depression everybody dreaded never came at all. new cars were something a lot of people wanted and only a lucky few could get. Strikes and shortages crippled production, and you practically had to be related to a dealer by blood or marriage before he'd consent to take your money. The black market connection didn't hurt either, and list prices came under the heading of post-war fiction. But eventually the bottlenecks broke, production shifted into high, and we were rolling merrily along again.